Hello and welcome to Rule of Three's video review for The Last of Us, a third-person action-adventure game from Naughty Dog and a PlayStation 3 exclusive. With me, like usual, are Synyster Dreamer. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well yourself?
Doing great. And Impressions. How you doing?
Fantastic.
All right, so let's get straight into The Last of Us. So the story of The Last of Us takes place in a apocalyptic future where
Post-apocalyptic.
post-apocalyptic, excuse me, where a plant, so what is it, a spore from a fungus basically causes a zombie apocalypse and causes there to be zombies, and you play as Joel, one of the survivors, and the guy who you kind of find out through dialogue has done some, kind of dirty things to survive in this world because it is a very survival of the fittest world, and also follows Ellie, who is tasked to transport to a certain location. And it's the story of their adventures and kind of their relationship as it grows throughout the story. I think this is by far The Last of Us' strongest point. Didn't want to put the game down because I wanted to find out what happened next and how things would go. So I enjoyed this story of this game very, very much. Sinister?
The storyline was actually really well done and was made enough that it captivated you. And I was like on the lines of you. It's like I didn't want to put the game down. So it's like it was one game I can say that actually storyline one to keep me going.
Impressions?
As you pointed out earlier, the game, the story involves a fungus rather that essentially zombifies the human population, and I appreciated that there was a new take on that whole, infection, a different type of infection. But essentially, it's just their version of zombies. I've saw, I mean, I'm not against it, but that's pretty much that's the function they serve in the story. Also, again, I want to bring up what you said about the relationship between Joel and Ellie. By far, it is the highlight of the game. Basically, like you said, their relationship as it changes throughout the course of the narrative. Obviously, you'll find out that he's resistant to her at the beginning, and then eventually that grows into a relationship. Uh, I don't want to get into the details because it is, and I don't want to spoil it for you, listeners. But that is what drove me to play. I wanted to find out what happened. I was concerned for these characters, and I was invested in their survival.
Especially after the first 10 minutes. That was like the most depressing stuff ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, that was depressing. So anyway, we're gonna get straight to gameplay. So, gameplay is kind of similar to how Uncharted is kind of set up. You have kind of maps that are kind of cut in between with cutscenes, and you travel around the map and you find artifacts, different little pendants, as well as collecting things to help you survive, gun ammo, and stuff like that. Unlike Uncharted, you can't just jump around and climb everything you see. It's a little bit more realistic in what you can do in terms of climbing and getting around. And I thought that was really well done. I actually did enjoy this, the way they did this, mostly just because it felt a little bit more realistic. And I couldn't just, oh, there's a 5 feet wall, I'll just scale it. Or not 5 feet, like a 10 feet wall, I'll just scale it and easily. It was a little bit more intense than that, or realistic, and how you had to find like a ladder or something. You couldn't just jump it.
Yeah, it felt like, a regular, ordinary person, not someone who, hey, look, a parkour master. No, it's just your ordinary person who is trying to survive, and it's like, oh, well, I can't jump that and get there, but hey, I got a second person with me, boost them up and they can help you up.
Right.
So, overall, it actually felt like more realistic than any other real zombie game I've played out there. So it was really well done, and I enjoyed the whole realistic aspect of that the part of the game.
Yeah. Impressions?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing here, realism is the word of the day. Basically, it's very similar to the Uncharted gameplay mechanics, but with a heavy dose of reality and its own twist on platforming. You mentioned the ladders and planks, basically, to climb up and climb across buildings. You can't just do those, gravity-defying jumps that you're familiar with in Uncharted. It's a little, it gives it's a very minor puzzle element to it. It's not hard to figure out, but it's, I appreciate that they went that route instead of just being able to, you know, traverse the terrain like you would in Uncharted, like you can just climb anything. There was that sense of, a logic to it.
All right. Next thing I want to get into is the combat system. Once again, shooting is very similar to Uncharted. If you never played Uncharted, it's very similar to most third-person shooters. You got a little target reticle and you aim and shoot. However, in The Last of Us, that's the last thing you want to do is really pull out a gun and start shooting. This has a little bit more heavier emphasis on stealth. You can take out enemies stealthily as long as they don't see you, and that is the way to do things because especially if there's humans and the zombies, which are called clickers. If you come into a group of clickers, you want to be stealthy as you just want to be stealth. You don't want to fight those things. They suck if you get into like a group of like 3 or 4 of them.
Gah.
Humans is also the same thing. You can't just like pick a gunfight because if you get shot, you can stumble and get pushed back depending on what you're doing. You can't just stand up and shoot them. So you got to be very careful with the combat. It does work very well when you're actually doing it, but once again, it's that whole realism thing. If you get bitten by a clicker, you're infected and you die. You can't take a whole lot of shots. You don't have recovering health. You have to have health kits. Once again, if you get shot into a bad situation, you can stumble and they can just take advantage of that. You can use other people as human shields to get them to kind of stand down, but that only lasts for so long. And yeah, I've really liked how they did the combat stuff in this one. This is one of the few games that is a survival action that I really felt the survival aspect take over a lot more. Impressions?
Well, I'll try to hit everything you touched on.
Yeah.
Back to shooting. The key difference again here between it and Uncharted is you cannot blind fire, and you don't want to anyways. Ammo is ridiculously scarce in this game. You can only aim, or you can only shoot if you're aiming down sights, which is what you want to be doing anyways. Back to what you said about, let's see, the stealth component. Very heavy emphasis on stealth, and that's attained by a very different cover system. It's not context sensitive. It's actually you just opt to crouch, and you basically can traverse the entire field that way, and then you just press against surfaces, and the character will react accordingly. And I thought that was very, that was good. That was a good innovation that they did for this game. What else was there? You mentioned. What else did you do those stuff? I'm trying to remember.
Clickers and stealth takedowns.
Oh, not just that, but one thing you didn't cover was the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was an actual name that they had for it that Naughty Dog developed. I remember reading an article on it. But essentially, basically, it's an AI that responds and reacts very differently depending on the movements that you make in game. And it's always not random, but it's always different. It won't reset the same way if you fail an encounter. The characters might start off slightly different locations, and that might make them that might set them on a different path. They'll investigate sounds. They'll investigate different avenues. They're not on a set path like certain games that emphasize a similar mechanic. This is by far the most realistic AI I've ever seen as far as looking at people that search for you. And I think that's all I can think of right now. If I remember anything, I'll buzz in. But on to Synyster. Go ahead.
Synyster?
Yeah, the whole shooting and realisticness of that, it was a nice draw to the survival aspect of the game, where it's like, okay, you have a gun, you have some ammo. Guess what? You can't just go willy-nilly into an area and just start a gunfight. Because you run out of bullets, well, guess what? If the enemy still has more, you're dead. And then the whole aspect of, if you get shot, you have the chance of get get to be stumbled and go lose your cover or get it put in the open, and then the whole stealth aspect really does come in handy when you're dealing with the enemy AI and just the zombies in general, because especially with clickers, if you can kill them before they hear you, it makes your world a whole lot easier. And
Yeah.
then the whole thing with the AI was really nice, where it was just a continuous change. So you can reset the same level, but the AI won't be the same. It'll be different every time because their mindsets changed. So it was a really nice redo on how survival, stealth, and kind of a zombie style game was made.
Yeah, I mean, back to what you were saying, it's this is one game where you certainly have the option of going all out and running out with your guns and guns blazing, but like you said, with the scarcity of ammo, it's highly unadvised to do so. And unlike Uncharted, you can take a couple bullets and still be fine. You just get a really white screen and you take a lot of damage. However, in The Last of Us, if you take one or two bullets even, you fall backwards because of the bullet impact, which is very realistic. So you can't, it's not an option to even take a hit at all because it will essentially put you at a disadvantage against the enemy. And with it's the enemy, it's clever AI. That's why it's really again one of the stronger points of this game is because I actually had to constantly think of new ways to outsmart the enemy, which is a credit to the game, really.
And get around clickers. Clickers suck
Yeah.
in this game.
Yeah.
If you're
Oh,
played, beware of clickers.
Just to clarify, clickers are blind, so hence basically this is where you take advantage of the sound mechanic, and that's how you navigate around clickers. Yeah, that's the enemy that emphasizes stealth about most.
Yeah, clickers.
Yep. And you can only kill them with a certain item, and you can't just
Shivs
kill them all
and
because there's not
melee.
enough in the world. There's not enough of shivs in the game to
Well,
take them all.
certain item and a certain ability.
Yeah. All
I
right. So
mean, I don't. I'm sure the entire game narrative would have been solved if you had just taken Ellie's knife somehow.
yeah.
She has a knife that lasts us forever. It's like, why can't you just give me that since I'm doing all the work anyways?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, she needs it. Okay.
But
So
at
moving
least,
on.
yeah, she'll save you every now and then.
Yeah, moving on. Next, I want to go into the crafting system. So, as I was saying, as you go around the world, you will find certain items that you can pick up, and it goes. There's 5 categories of crafting material. Every item's allocate to one of those, and as soon as you have enough of those items, you can craft different items, whether it be shivs, healing items, Molotovs, a couple of other things, upgrade melee weapons. It's a very simple. Once again, you don't get enough crafting stuff to, make everything you want, so you got to be kind of careful with just using your items. And you can also not hold an infinite amount of the crafting materials. You can only have so many. I like the crafting system. Once again, it's that whole survival aspect coming out a little bit more so than other games, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. Synyster?
Yeah, the crafting system was one of those aspects that it's like because I believe this game was a game plus kind of deal where it's like you play it again, it carries over, being the fact that with how scarce crafting items are, it's like, okay, you can kind of try to plan to get yourself further help in the next time you play around. But otherwise, it's like you really had to be picky on what you crafted, what you upgraded, and what you chose to do with all your items and gear, and even just your Joel in retrospect for his abilities.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a little bit. Synyster, or not Synyster, impressions.
Yeah, we can go to upgrades in a sec, but yeah, back to crafting. Two things I want to mention for that. First off, it's simplified in the sense that you just have the items that you can build, and then it'll automatically deplete, from the resources that you have available to craft that item. You don't have to worry about literally, selecting the ingredients in order to craft it. You just highlight the item, and if you have the supplies, you can make it automatically. So I like that they made it very cut and dry like that. no, no mistake about it whether or not you can afford to make the tool or the item crafting. Secondly, the crafting menu or the crafting itself, it happens in game. You cannot pause. So there are situations in which you say you need an explosive to deal with a certain enemy. You're going to have to hide, find cover, and if you have the supplies, you can build that item on the spot. All the while, the enemy is still approaching you. So there's a sense of urgency and a sense of strategy involved when you're crafting. Uh, Obviously, craft everything that you need ahead of time, but there will come certain situations wherein you have to find the supplies on the fly, hide in a corner somewhere, make it, and then use it, and hopefully that'll do the trick. So that I feel was a critical element of gameplay and one that they did pretty well.
Okay, and the last part of the gameplay I want to talk about is upgrades. So Synyster kind of touched on this. There's things called parts which you use to upgrade your guns, and there's also what are called supplements which you use to upgrade Joel's abilities, health, and other things. The part mechanic I thought worked really well with the guns. You just get enough guns and have enough set of tools to upgrade your guns, and obviously it increases the stats of the guns. And then the supplement was also nice. You could you just collected enough, and you just chose which one you wanted based on what you needed. Some were more survival, some were more just kind of, well, they're all survival, just to make things a little bit easier on you in some aspect. And like I said, I thought the upgrade system, once again, like the rest of this game, I thought it was really well done. I didn't have any issues with it. It gave me a choice, and I couldn't just, I'm just gonna get everything. I had to go, okay, I want this right now. I want this right now. I think I can pass on this, and I had to be picky on what I wanted. Synyster.
Yeah, because like you said, being picky is the fact that it's like you only like I think by the time you find the first like crafting table, and if you have the ability to start really crafting things, that's like you really haven't found much supplies. So it's like, okay, I can upgrade maybe the gun to this, or I can at least be able to make shivs. Well, I didn't find enough supplements, so I can do one ability, but there's a couple that work right now, and you have to figure out which one you want to do at the moment. But going through the rest of the game, you proceed, and it's like, okay, still have to be picky, figure out what is more potent for the scenario at the time and will help you further on, and which ones that you can just pass off for now or don't really focus on.
Okay, impressions?
Again, like you guys pointed out, there are not a lot of crafting tables. So the opportunity to actually not crafting tables, upgrade tables. There are not a lot of opportunities to upgrade your gear, and they only happen. Well, I think I only remember maybe 8 times the entire game where I had the opportunity to do so. And even then, you're not going to be able to craft all the upgrades that you want because there's also upgrade tools. I guess it's basically a picture of a wrench, or what was it?
It's a wrench.
Pliers.
Pliers, yeah.
Pliers or whatever, yeah. So you cannot craft everything. Even if you somehow manage to find all the parts, you cannot craft everything until later in the game. And I've realized that a little too late, that maybe about 75, 80% into the game, that the only way I would be able to get this is through a second playthrough. So I realized that I had been saving up parts in vain because I'm never going to be able to get to that point. So what I should have done was allocated to weaker power-ups. That was a mistake that I made, but lesson learned.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's that's why this game is a completionist nightmare. Basically,
it is. It really is. This would be a very long game for me.
It's impossible to get it all in one run. You have to. There's a new game plus to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to use that. So, last thing I want to talk about is multiplayer. This game has a multiplayer function. I just kind of want to touch on it because it's not the highlight of the game. It's just something I'd like to put in, kind of like they did for Uncharted. There's a couple of game modes. The most ones that or at least the one I found the most interesting was the rated supplied rating one, where you raid for supplies and the team that gets the most supplies wins. But the other thing is, in order to finish people off, I noticed you had to actually get in close to finish them. You couldn't just shoot them from afar. If you did that, they
Well,
wouldn't.
you can shoot them. It's just a waste of ammo, and
Yeah.
it's actually really hard to aim in this game.
Yeah, because once again, it's that whole survivalist. There's not a lot of ammo, so you ended up doing a lot more melee to finish. And I don't know, the multiplayer was okay. Like I said, it's not great, like games that are focused on it, but you know, it was entertaining. I did enjoy the little bit I did of it. Synyster.
I have nothing to touch on this because I was playing just single player for the time I had the game before I quickly sent it back.
Impressions? Any thoughts on
I,
the multiplayer?
yeah, I did play it. So the problem with multiplayer in The Last of Us, it's the exact same problem as the Uncharted multiplayer. Is that whoever's been playing longer usually is going to be so much better at it than you. It's just that it's very hard for someone who to just start in on it, especially when there's already a bunch of pros. They don't balance it very well.
Yeah.
It's very different, and when everybody has the same powers as you, it's a very different experience. Where everybody can track your movements with the listening thing, the listening method, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Listening mode. So yeah, and also it really, really, really sucks if you're playing by yourself. I would recommend at least playing with one friend because there is a level of cooperation that's necessary, and you're not going to get that without, you know, well, at least a mic to tell her what you're doing because it's very dependent on teamwork, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. All right, so with that, I want to go into the ratings. So here at Rule of Three, if you've never listened to one of our reviews, we don't do a point system because I don't want to deal with the points. Instead, we do a buy, rent, pass system. A buy means we think it's worth the full price of the game, whatever the publisher wants. That's obviously they deserve that money because the game was just that good and is worthy of it. A rent is a twofold rating. It means either it was okay, wait for it to go down in price, maybe half off or get a used copy, or rent it from GameFly or Redbox or Box or what do you have near you. It's just, it's not worth the full price, but, it was a fun game. It's worth at least a shot. Pass means destroy it. And destroy it now and never touch it.
Give it to one of the zombies.
Yeah, give it to a clicker. And let him maul on that. So I'll start off with this. I give The Last of Us a buy. I didn't find any faults with it, to be honest, other than multiplayer, and I didn't care about multiplayer because the single-player experience was so dang good. This is by far one of the best single-player games I've played since, I think, BioShock Infinite. I think it's the last really good single-player experience I've had in a while. So I was really, really happy with this game, and I was very impressed with what Naughty Dog did. Synyster.
I also give it a buy. I wish I actually could have held on to the game a lot longer than I did, because I would have actually probably tried to finish the game like I did with like Resident Evil Revelations. But yeah, all in all, this game actually, for what it is, really did real well to captivate and make a great game.
Impressions.
I also give it a buy, pretty much the highest buy I could have ever given any game. It really lives up to the hype. The story is excellent. You really do care about the characters, and just on a personal level, really, this is like one of the best, if not the best, PlayStation 3 game I've ever played. Just because how profound it was, in my opinion. I think I'm actually going to make it one of my last PS3 purchases. It would be my very last purchase, not the Lost Planet 3, but that's another story.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. You have 3 buys for The Last of Us. That's it for this podcast. Or not podcast, this review. Next week we will be doing Deadpool, the video game. So make sure to keep an eye out for that next week. So make sure to leave a comment below. This was actually good for our next month giveaway, which is also going to be a whatever game you want giveaway because there's nothing coming out until like October that I think is worthy of even a single giveaway. And I think the popularity of this one was really well. So we'll do another whatever you want summer giveaway. So make sure to leave a comment for entries into that. Like us on Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel so you get the latest videos. Stay tuned also for the our next month update. I have a couple of announcements, including some new content we're going to be having on the site, or at least our YouTube page. So keep an eye out for that. And thanks for listening. And always remember to trust in the rule of 3.